Hello darlings, it's a Tuesday afternoon. It is the 20th of February and guess what arrived in the post today? That's correct, another anniversary present from my beloved husband. Oh, how that man must adore me. Actually, it was really kind of him. And another one to add to my James collection. Yes, ladies and gents, we are finally starting to rebuild the missing books. This one is called The Spear. Instrument of terror, symbol of evil. Ooh, boy, is this an evil book. Ooh, let's enjoy. Shall we begin? First published on January the 1st, 1978 by New English Library. The one that my husband found me, which I lost. This edition was from 1980. First paperback edition. First edition, 1980, January the 1st, New English Library. The hardback had 278 pages and this edition has 253. So, without further ado, let's start the fun. We start the novel on the 23rd of May, 1945. Sergeant Major Edwin Austen almost smiled in pity for the pathetic figure who sat huddled on the couch with a blanket wrapped around him. He was trembling. Almost, but not quite. He couldn't really smile for him. For they say this is the innocuous little man who had caused the deaths of thousands, millions in the vicious war that had just ended. His persecution of the Jews in his own country, then in other captured territories, had horrified the world. And even now, more atrocities were coming to light. So yeah, you can really get a feel for the guy. My goodness, isn't he just the one you want to invite to all the parties? Not really. Could this prisoner be one of the feared SS officers? Well, as we go along through this, if you haven't read The Spear, what's wrong with you? Why have you not read it? It's fantastic and you should. In fact, do it tonight. If you haven't read this book anyway, getting back to my original, there's going to be a few spoilers in here. So if you've not read it, perhaps you should go and read it and then come back to this review. Or if you're really not that bothered, then we'll just crack on and spoilers be damned. Let's just discuss the book. Okay, chapter 1. We meet Mr. Harry Steadman. He's a private investigator on his way to work on a Monday morning, as you do. He notices a couple sitting in a cortina. In England, that's a type of car, is a cortina. The man, his eyes, they snap to attention on seeing Steadman. Harry does not know who the couple are, but he starts to get a very uneasy feeling of something he hasn't felt for a very long time. Trust your gut instinct, people. It won't let you down. Harry shares his office with his partner, Maggie Waith. They have worked hard to establish their private detective agency, and their staff consists of 3 people. A retired police officer named Blake, who they naturally call Sexton, a young trainee detective, Steve, who would lead them soon to set up his own detective agency, and they have trusty, reliable Sue, their receptionist, stroke typist, stroke general runaround. Apparently she's 29 years old, unmarried, A little bit of a plumpy, but an absolute godsend. Yeah. So, Steadman inquires to the whereabouts of Maggie when he meets Sue in the office doing the typing. Sue puts a message into Steadman. The gentleman wants to see you this morning. I'm really sorry, but he does want to see you, Mr. Steadman. He is most insistent on seeing you, Mr. Steadman. Steadman tries to pass off the job, and he just says, I don't really want to, I don't, it's not my bag. But, Steadman's actually a real rough and tough kind of guy, and, when he says no, it means no, except nobody seems to be listening. It seems the man sat in the cortina is the man that wants to see you. Steadman sits at his desk and reads the paper. The message and it, Ziwi sends his regards. His blood runs cold. Steadman's blood is like ice at the moment. It brings up loads of emotions. Ziwi Zamir, ex-director of Mossad, the Elia Beth, the Institute of the Israeli Secret Service. So yeah, his history, there's lots of history here. The gentleman, Mr. Goldblatt, is here to see you, Mr. Steadman, calls Sue. There's quite some history between these men. Quite a lot of anger. Oh, there's proper bloody raging inside. Oh yeah, absolutely raging. Yeah, so Mr. Goldblatt apologises and says that Mossad needs Mr. Steadman's help again. Steadman had left the British Army to join Mossad, in particular a woman named Lila Hanan. This name causes Steadman a lot of grief, so it's obviously somebody that is loved in the past, and she maybe left him, is no more. We will find out. Goldblatt wants Steadman to do a mission for him. He wants to know what Steadman knows on a person called Edward Gant. Now, Edward Gant is a bit of a see you next Tuesday. Yeah, that's code. I can't say the real word because it's a bit rude. Very rude, in fact. So this Gant, this see you next Tuesday, he says, what do you know about him? Asks Goldblatt to Steadman. Steadman says he's an arms supplier, a big dealer, a sophisticated weapons supplier. So he's a gun runner, in non-colloquial words. Steadman asks, why are you interested in him? Goldblatt states that all the roads that in his investigation have led back to him. Well, Steadman goes, apparently he keeps out the limelight, moves in very high circles, wealthy, respectable, appeared on the scene in the USA in 1950. Records show he was an emigrant from Canada. He married a wealthy American widow and started in the arms trade. He said, see, if you know all this, why are you asking me? And Goldblatt admits that 3 weeks ago, one of the Israeli secret agents, Mossad, investigating Edward Gant, activities in the United Kingdom had disappeared and they've not heard from him since. Goldblatt wants Steadman to find his missing agent. What's going on? Is it espionage, death, mystery, all of the above? Why not go to the police, said Steadman. What are Mossad hiding? Because everybody's got a grift and everybody's got something to hide, don't they just? Steadman declines the job But he didn't notice his partner Maggie listening into the conversation. Maggie is Steve's partner, a beautiful 40-something classy lady. Ooh, classy lady. I wouldn't mind being one of those. Maggie. Oh, Maggie. She unwittingly asks for Mr. Goldblatt's information from Sue, the receptionist, and she contacts Mr. Goldblatt. Some time passes. Steadman goes away in a prior investigation and comes back home. Goes to bed, whatever, and sleeps. And he's woken in his home by hammering at his front door at 2:23 a.m. in the morning, which is a very unusual time to get anybody out of bed unless it's an absolute dire emergency. And he's thinking, what the hell, who in their right mind would want me at this hour? He goes downstairs to investigate and hears something scraping itself by the door, his front door. And he thought he heard a low murmuring, at least the sound wasn't human. It was like the whimpering of an animal in pain. He considered going back for his gun, but he thinks he's been a bit melodramatic. Suddenly there's a thump against the front door and it makes him draw away in fright. He thinks he's behaving like an old woman and he reaches for the latch and swings the door open inwards with a jerk. I mean, the next bit's quite a bit of a shock. Yeah. A figure stood spread-eagled in the doorway, arms outstretched, holding on to the door frame, which is rather strange. Their head is hung down low, and dark liquid seems to be drooling from its mouth. The figure seemed strangely slumped, for the knees were bent as if giving no support to the body. A low moaning noise comes from it, and suddenly Steadman realises it's Maggie, but she's been so disfigured that he didn't know it was her at first. And then he realises that she's been nailed to his front door frame. Nailed? Wow. Steadman tries to remove the nails from her hand and he can't do it, so he runs off to where he keeps his tool chest and gets out a claw hammer. He manages to get one of the nails out of the back of her hand and tries to go and get the other nail out, but unfortunately it's in really, really deep, so he has to really dig the prongs of the hammering. Well, you know what a hammer looks like, and you know what the claw looks like on the back. Well, imagine your hand is going to have to dig it right in and to rip the nail out, right? So he manages to do that, and he carries Maggie, who's now not moving at all, into his house, and he looks into her eyes, and her eyes are blank. They're just looking back, they're just not seeing anymore. And he rips open her jacket to try and hear for a heartbeat, and he can't find one. And then he realises that she's dead. But what's really puzzling him right now is he can't figure out why her tongue has been ripped out of her head. I know. Of all the vicious things that someone can do to another human. Wow. Just wow. But hold on, there's more. There's always more. It's James. What a cracking way to start a novel. Steadman is now on the crusade of crusades. And he is going to find Maggie's killer and who or what was behind this. We are now at a very pivotal point in the novel. Yeah, and it's only the beginning. My God, this is such a page turner. This book, once you start it, I'm not kidding you, you're not going to have a week and you're going to be wanting to pick it up, and you won't want to go to sleep because you'll be so engrossed and you'll be trying to read the book, and you need to finish it because, my God, it's so good. Yeah. Oh, goodness me. So we go back to the office. Sue admits to Steadman that Maggie had taken on Mr. Goldblatt's job, and Steadman naturally hits the roof. Steadman is now on the crusade, an epic crusade, to find out what is going on and who ordered the hit on Maggie and why. Gant had Maggie killed, and nailing her to Steadman's door was a warning not to do any more investigating. Well, Steadman, nah, he's not the type of bloke that says, you don't scare me, you don't scare me, you killed my best friend, I am coming after you when hell's coming with me. There, that Gant should be absolutely papping his pants by now, because he has just unleashed the whirlwind. Ooh. Nigel Pope is another character we're going to meet. Oh, this man is a grotesque ball of fat. He works for the British intelligence and appears that he's investigating Maggie's death and the Mossad connection, and he seems to know a great deal about Steadman. Pope tells Steadman about the rise in Nazism and fanaticism by Edward Gant. Is Gant funding this? Then we hear about an organisation called Hegel Lance or Hegel Lance. Hegel Lance. Right, remember that. Very important. Pivotal. Absolutely, the book depends on you remembering that. David Goldblatt and his partner Hannah are having a meeting in a car. It's a Jaguar, but you know, it's just a car. Yeah. Hegel Lance being funded by Edward Gant. They arrange a meeting with Gant as a ruse, as a potential arms trade, a made-up buyer on the premise of a false sale. Gant is aware of this, and is not long before a chieftain tank is after Steadman and a girl called Holly. Holly will crop up again and again and again throughout this novel. Who is Holly? What or which organisation is she with? Can she be trusted? We will find out. We have lots of chasers throughout the book, and that's what makes it so exciting. Oh yeah. We find out. You know, I told you about the Hegel Lance. Well, it is the Holy Lance, named after Saint Longus or Longinus. I am going to try really, really hard to learn these and say them properly. Saint Longus. Help. The Spear of Destiny. Look, we'll call it the Spear of Destiny. It is the lance that pierced the side of Jesus as he hung on the cross during his crucifixion. So it's quite the spear. It's got quite the story, and it's got quite the power. Yeah. So that is what they're after. Notable parts within the novel. Yeah. Solomon Smith is 58 years old and he's a jeweller in Walthamstow. And he's known as Solly to his friends. He has taken refuge in the UK and built a new life for himself. Solly tries to help Mossad in any way he can because he's so grateful for the fact that he managed to escape on the night that his family was rounded up, and he was saying goodbye to a beautiful young lady, and only I'll leave it to the imagination for that part. Anyway, after they kissed each other goodnight, he went or tried to go back home, only to see that the Germans had rounded his family up and his family was murdered. And Solly at that point escaped and managed to get to the United Kingdom and build a life for himself. But he never forgot about his past, and he did whatever he could in order to help Mossad and the intelligence agency, and he's friends with Sexton, the ex-police officer who happens to work for Steadman, and he's just a really, really nice character, and it's just absolutely horrific what happens to him. It really is. Solly's last words are as follows. "Oh dear God," his moan rose to a wail. "You! Oh God, it can't be!" It was then that he screamed. When they find poor Solly, he's almost catatonic. He had the look of someone who'd just seen the creature from hell. Hang on to that thought. Hang on to that thought, because it will become very clear very soon. We find that the reason the spear is being looked for is because the Nazis and their followers believe it to have mythical powers. It seems that the character from the very beginning of the novel is going to be resurrected. I can't really talk about this next scene without wanting to burst into tears because it's so powerful. All I will tell you is that there is a rather brutal scene involving a hairdryer and the fact that it's used as a torture weapon, and I just can't, okay, I just, no to that one. We need to try and work out why on earth are we trying to resurrect the Third Reich? Was it not bad enough the first time round that we have to go for part 2? Good grief. Anyway, there seem to be some very, very wealthy and influential people, and I personally think they're all off their rockers, and they all seem to be worshipping this evil SS character. Why? What will the new Führer do for them? It seems the most influential leaders are involved in this somehow from around the world. And then we find out that Pope is not all he seems to be. That slimy ball of lard. Oh, the butterball from hell. Yep, Pope is not all he seems to be. And Steadman is going to be used. And why the hell do they want to use Steadman? You know, what is it about him? But they seem to be hinting at a revolution within the United Kingdom. And we hear about the Thewlists who are a very evil organisation, and they just suddenly start to appear. But it will make sense. What is left of the old Nazi party are within the Thulist organisation. And it would seem that the United Kingdom had many sympathisers. And it also seems that America had a lot of sympathisers as well. And we have 13. Now, the number 13 is quite pivotal because it's a symbolic number. And we have 13 leaders sat around a table, and they are trying to connect with the spirit of the one they must resurrect. It can't be, but it is. The one, the only, Heinrich Himmler. Things have just gone from the bizarre to the bonkers to the batshit crazy. Oh my God. Wow. You know, if things are not tough enough, now we've got to fight an ancient evil too. Oh yeah. And we're also trying to avert a war. Here comes a bit of reading from the book. Yes, I've saved this bit for you, my darlings. Enjoy. Steadman nodded, but his mind was concentrated on making a quick count of the names. You said there were 13 in the order, and you've mentioned, including yourself, only 12. Who is the 13th member, Dr. Sure or Major Branningham? Why, neither, Mr. Steadman. They, although extremely important, are only tools. Men like our Major Branningham and the unfortunate and unstable Mr. Koner. It was his unreliability, by the way, that prompted us to leave you in his hands. A calculated test for you, if you like. These men merely implement our plans. As for the esteemed Dr. Sure, he smiled benignly at the wrinkled old man. He is our medium, the one who brings our 13th member to us. He is the physical voice of our leader. Even as Grant said the name, Steadman knew who the 13th member of the Order of the Teutonic Order of the Holy Knights was. They had rejected Hitler because he'd failed them, and switched their allegiance to the SS Reichsfuhrer, founder of the Nazi Occult Bureau, who had encouraged and sustained the Thule group. Gant was smiling as he spoke, his eyes radiating a passion felt by everyone in the room. He will be with us tonight, Dr. Sure will bring him to us, and you will meet him, Mr. Steadman. You will meet our Führer, Heinrich Himmler, before you die. Oh, I just had an idea of just, getting a TV dinner and watching a little bit, of Coronation Street. I didn't really think I was going to meet, the Führer, Heinrich Himmler, tonight, and then I was going to die, Bloody hell. This is quite interesting, this next bit. Gant spoke to the investigator for over an hour, laying out his plans for the new order before him, treating him to his almost as a confidant, or perhaps a guest to be dazzled by his host's genius, because they really like to gloat. The others had added their own comments reluctantly at first, then swept along by the arms dealer's fervour. realising Steadman could do them no harm, for he was already a dead man. Oh, was he? We will see. Steadman listened, sometimes goading, sometimes visibly astonished at their thoroughness. As for the far-reaching effects of their fanatical plans would make on the governance of the country, our country, the United Kingdom. Yes, excuse me. By intricate and brilliantly devious routes, it all arrived at one simple but major conflict. Right against left. It would be the only choice for the people of Britain. No in-betweens, no fence-sitting. The public would be forced to choose. Civil war would be balanced in favour of the right, for the majority would be the wealthy, those whose sympathies lay towards nationalistic pride, and the middle classes who had suffered so much between the elite of the country and the working classes would choose to join them rather than be ruled by an economy-wrecking socialists. The choice would be made easy for them. The new leaders would emerge and their ideals would be uncompromising, just as Hitler's had been in the 1930s. Edward Gant had been in the shadows for many years, weaving his sinister power behind the scenes. Now he was emerging from those shadows, a new figure to the public, but already powerful enough to repel any attacks from those already in power. Steadman saw how their inner cabinet, their order, had been carefully chosen, comprising men already in key positions, all waiting for the right moment to throw off their disguises and unite publicly, and so unite the masses to them. Timing was of the essence, and events to further their cause were manipulated at exactly the right time. Gosh. Wow. I mean, just wow. That's what they've got planned for us, eh? Here in the United Kingdom. Get the middle class to go and wow. Just wow. So not only are we fighting the ultimate evil, Heinrich Himmler, we're also trying to stop a war breaking out. We can only hope that the spear will be destroyed and we will send Himmler back to the hell he once came from. I really, really hope Steadman is strong enough and powerful enough to ensure that this happens. You'll just have to read the book, won't you, my darlings, to find out if it actually happens. Honestly, I can give this book 10 out of 10. It is absolutely, utterly fantastic. A wonderful read. James at his very best. Oh my gosh, I absolutely adore you, James. You are truly, truly wonderful. Fantastic. I'm so pleased. Thank you, darling husband, for purchasing this gorgeous book for me. And look, isn't it in beautiful condition, considering how old it is? And it's got a little bit of creasing down the spine, but considering the fact that it's going on for 50 years old, I mean, wow, amazing, absolutely amazing. So get yourself a copy and get it read. You're going to absolutely love it. And I'll say what I always say. Happy readings, darlings, and enjoy. And if you enjoy what I do, give me a thumbs up. And if you really, really enjoy what I do, you could always subscribe and give me a follow. And who knows what I'll come back with next time. But I do tell you this, I'm so excited. Not only did I get the fog for my anniversary present, I also got the sphere. My husband does truly love me, and I love him. Thank you, darling. And thank you everyone for tuning in. And I will see you next time. Happy readings, darlings, and enjoy.